Hi guys, welcome to Listen to the Stars. Today we're going to be talking about the eclipse. So more specifically, we're going to be talking about the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse. And if you have any interest in Vedic astrology, tarot cards, the cards of truth, or spirituality in general, please subscribe if you have not already. And if you want to learn more about me and check out my tarot card readings, astrology readings, and life coaching, then you can go to NicoleBrenny.com. So what is an eclipse? I'm basically going to be talking about that because I'm actually making another video where I'm doing some readings for you guys, not live, but in the moment readings where I actually cast cards. So I'm going to be talking about eclipses so that you guys can have a better handle on the astrology and astronomy of them so you can understand the readings better. So I'm not going to go super in depth when I answer these, but an eclipse is actually broken up into two parts: the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse. And the lunar eclipse is always going to occur during a full moon. So the lunar eclipse is when the moon's orbit and the sun's orbit intersect in such a way that the moon is directly between the sun and the earth. So the moon is going to appear kind of dark as it passes through the earth's shadow. So the earth is basically blocking the sun's rays from reaching the moon. Okay, so there's just sort of a blocking action happening. So if you look at a birth chart, it's going to kind of look like, especially Vedic astrology, the south node or Ketu is going to be hanging out with the moon, and the north node or Rahu is going to be hanging out opposite the moon with the sun. So it's going to be a full moon with Rahu with the sun and Ketu with the moon. Now this specific eclipse also includes Mars, and Mars is hanging out with the sun in Rahu right now in Leo, with the moon with Ketu in Aquarius. After the full moon, there's going to be a 2-week period of a waning moon where the moon is getting darker, and then there's going to be a solar eclipse on the new moon. So what the new moon solar eclipse is when the new moon moves between the sun and the earth. So there's the new moon, here's the sun, here's the earth, and they kind of form a straight line. Okay, so when you look at that, the sun gets dark and there's a shadow cast on the earth. The solar eclipse only lasts for a few minutes, and the lunar eclipse lasts a few hours. And so if you look at a Vedic astrology chart, you are going to see Ketu in Aquarius, or Ketu by itself over here, because it's not always in Aquarius. And then right now, Rahu is going to be in Leo, but Rahu will be opposite Ketu still. And when I say it, I should just clarify, Ketu is the south node of the moon, Rahu is the north node. So the north node is going to be with the moon and the sun, that's a new moon, and Ketu is going to be by itself. And in this specific solar eclipse, we have the north node alongside the sun, the moon, and Mars. So that adds kind of a Martian quality to this eclipse. Alright, and so this eclipse in particular is happening in Leo, with the south node being in Aquarius, and that full moon was happening in Aquarius. So the Aquarius-Leo axis is going to be what is activated. That 2-week window that I was just talking about between the lunar and the solar eclipse is what we're currently in. So the lunar eclipse for us happened on the 7th and 8th of August of 2017, so the 7th and the 8th of this month. And the solar eclipse is going to be happening on the 21st of this month. So with the indications of an eclipse, they are going to be the most powerful during this 2-week window and on the actual dates of the lunar and the solar eclipse, but also about 1 month before and 1 month after this 2-week window is when you're really going to be seeing effects. So a lot of things that have been happening to people that are close to me didn't necessarily happen on the lunar eclipse or right now, because we haven't had the solar eclipse, but they've been happening sort of, they were happening in July or a few days before the lunar eclipse, and I'm positive that a lot of things are going to be happening just after the solar eclipse in the first weeks of September. In addition to that, there is a 6-month period after this eclipse window that's also extremely important, because eclipses typically come in pairs. So the sister eclipse to this eclipse will be happening 6 months from now in January of 2018. So any kind of indications that are brought up during this eclipse will sort of they will ripen sort of in these next 6 months, and the finality of that, the conclusion of that, will happen in January. So when I do these readings for you guys in the next video, I'm going to be really addressing the date of the solar eclipse, 8/21, in that whole week. But I'll also be looking into that 6-month window for you guys as well, to kind of look at the indications in your birth chart. Another interesting thing I found out is that the word eclipse comes from the Greek word eclipsis, and there could be a better way to pronounce that, but that word means to fail or abandon. So eclipses in general don't necessarily have this auspicious sort of tonality to them. They're definitely more inauspicious, and it's not really a time to do anything new. It's more so a time for introspection and to figure things out. Typically, eclipses will bring some kind of a crisis that needs to be healed or worked through, and I think that's why there's that connotation of failing or abandonment or abandoning something. So just in my life in particular, things that I've seen happen to people around me for this eclipse in general is that this eclipse has brought death to some people. So some people have actually died. And the solar eclipse is actually going to be a little bit more fatal than the lunar eclipse, but the deaths occurred around the lunar eclipse and in that 1 month window before. Also, and before I even talk about more examples, I want to stress that this eclipse is not going to impact every single person in this dramatic, life-changing kind of way. It's going to affect individuals in a unique way as shown by where the eclipse is happening in your birth chart. So I'm going to be including a birth chart calculator in this video and in the video where I'm going to be doing the readings. So you want to really look at your exact birth chart using your exact birth date, location, and time to see where this eclipse is happening, because your rising sign is going to really change things. So really get your birth time accurate. And it's going to only really impact you if it's affecting key points in your chart. So those key points in your chart will be planets that are already in your chart and where they are placed. So if this eclipse is happening right on top of one of those planets, conjuncting one of those planets, this eclipse is going to be very powerful for you. Also, if this eclipse is impacting any of your house cusps, including the Lagna point, which is your basically where your chart starts, that rising point, that will also be important. So it's basically where the point where the horizon was at the time of your birth. That's also going to be extremely important. But otherwise, you might not be impacted by this eclipse, except by way of this eclipse having a huge impact on our society as a whole as Americans. And I'm from the United States, so I'm speaking only from that perspective, but I know people from all over the world are watching. So if this eclipse is visible in your native country or wherever you're living, then this is going to affect you more deeply. And so even if it's not affecting your chart, it's going to be affecting individuals around you and your society that you're living in. So therefore it will have some kind of an indirect impact on you as well. That being said, it's really not auspicious to be looking at this eclipse. I know some people, they go and they buy like the eclipse watching glasses and things like that, but it's really not a wise thing to do. So try to stay indoors, try to not absorb the rays from that eclipse. Unfortunately, I'm going to be traveling during this eclipse, which is so stupid, but I have to. So I'm going to be wearing my mala and doing as many different mantras as I can, because it's also very auspicious to do mantras, to do yoga, to do different chanting or meditations during this eclipse. Any kind of spiritual activities that you do that are meaningful to you are heightened and magnified by this eclipse, because now we're focusing on our inner sun rather than the external sun, which is being blocked out. So if you can, not go to work and just stay home and focus on your sadhana or whatever kind of practices you have, then this is the day to do it. Some people even say that by looking at the eclipse, especially the solar eclipse, that you can actually have ill effects. So keep that in mind. At least it's an excuse to not do anything. Also, you're going to want to fast during the eclipse. So as I mentioned before, the solar eclipse only lasts several minutes. So the 3 hours before and after, or even just a 3-hour window during that time, don't consume any food. If you can, don't even consume fruit or water, just nothing during that time. Fasting is very auspicious. It's also auspicious during the lunar eclipse, but this really speaks to the fact that the sun is being blocked out, and the sun is Agni, the sun is the fire within us that burns our food for fuel. And so by fasting, we're really acknowledging the fact that we are not having access to that fire to help us really get the most out of those nutrients. So there's really no point in eating during that time. If you have, any health conditions where you have to eat, of course eat, but we're just talking about some extra things to tell you if you're really interested in taking your eclipse experience to the next level. So I'm in this group called Kala Study Group, and one of the things that Ganesh brought up in there was that Sadhguru has said that dead bodies will deteriorate much faster on eclipse days, and I thought that was really interesting to share with you guys. And also Ernst Wilhelm, who I study with, was talking about what this eclipse specifically means for other people, and I will repeat this in the next video, but this eclipse in general, astrologically, involves unexpected events involving friends or groups, will place a great deal of pressure on personal relationships. These relationship issues may loom large as the eclipse affects the chart. The individual would be wise not to make any hasty decisions since information is distorted and possibly false. The eclipse also has the essence of tiredness or health problems attached to it. So I know for me specifically, I have been extremely tired since a month before the eclipse. I'm very tired now even. I had, these eclipses will bring, I think I mentioned this, these eclipses will bring sort of a crisis that needs to be dealt with or healed typically, or the opportunity to deal with some kind of a crisis. And so for me, it was health because the eclipse impacted an area of health in my chart very directly. So for a few weeks before the lunar eclipse and part of this 2-week window, I have been very sick and just having to sleep and not having any energy to do anything. So that's really specific to my chart and with what Mars represents in my chart and where it's all happening and the timing with my dashas and all of that. But this is definitely an eclipse that can cause health issues. So that happened with me and the crisis has been healed. So it's not like, you get a health problem and you have it the rest of your life. You just, some kind of crisis might come up to be healed for you. My boyfriend broke his rib a few days, like 2 days before the lunar eclipse. And that didn't necessarily have to do with the eclipse because Mars was impacting his chart in a very direct way to cause that to happen. But Mars is implicated in this eclipse, so that eclipse kind of pushed that Mars transit over the edge for him. So there can be real direct crises that happen during this eclipse. So if you have had anything interesting happening during the lunar eclipse or a month before or right now, please comment below. I would love to learn from you guys and hear interesting things about your specific situations. And if you want to learn more about how this eclipse is going to impact your chart specifically, you can definitely set up an appointment with me. I will be traveling this weekend, but I might be able to take on a few charts to read. So send me an email, hi@NicoleBrenny.com, or just go to my website, NicoleBrenny.com, to set that up. And you don't need to do it before the solar eclipse because, like I said, this eclipse is going to be impacting you these next 6 months. So even if it's sometime next week, we can talk about what that eclipse was bringing up for you to heal or to deal with and how that's going to come to finality, a finality within the next 6 months for you. So try not to watch the eclipse, stay safe. There are some people that even say don't overeat, oversleep, or drink too much water even during this time. So keep all those things in mind, and I'm so excited to do some readings for all the 12 signs in my next video. Also, I will be doing a giveaway coming up in September for all my subscribers. If you are subscribed, you have the chance to win a reading with me, and the reading will be announced in September of what that's going to be. So people that are subscribed already have one entry into that contest, and then the more you share and get other people to subscribe, the more entries that you get. So please do that if you want to win a reading with me. Have a wonderful and safe eclipse season, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.